Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
続きまして、教皇お迎えに際して皆様とお祈りを捧げたいと思います。小野寺陽一神父様、お願いいたします。
カトリック仙台市教区の小野寺神父です。今日ここにお集まりの皆様方とご一緒に祈りを捧げてまいりたいと思います。多くの方々が犠牲になりました。そのかけがえのない尊いお一人一人のことを心に思いを寄せたいと思います。また同時に東日本大震災では建物や道路や多くのものが壊されました。目に見えるそれらのものと同じように家族をはじめ多くの人間の関係も壊されました。それは今でも続いていると伺っています。震災直後、教皇様は
Momento di
訪れたいという希望を持っておられると伺ったことがあります。今回こうして教皇様と被災者の方々との集いがもたらしたことを心から感謝申し上げたいと思います。主のもとに召された犠牲になられた多くの方々、そして今もなお大変な状況にありつつも希望のうちに歩んでいくことができますように、主なる神様に信頼を寄せて、しおりの中ほどにあります主の祈りをご一緒に捧げてまいりたいと思います。天におられる私たちの父よ、皆が聖とされますように、御国が来ますように、御心が天に行われる通り、地にも行われますように、私たちの日ごとの糧を今日もお与えください。私たちの罪をお許しください。私たちも人を許します。私たちを誘惑に陥らせず、悪からお救いください。アーメン。
ご来場の皆様にご案内いたします。まもなく教皇フランシスコがご到着されます。お席におかけになり、しばらくお待ちください。また、ご入場の際、拍手をご遠慮いただきますようお願い申し上げます。では、今しばらくお待ちくださいませ。
Laudetur Jesus Christus. Praise be Jesus Christ. You're listening to Vatican News. And a very warm welcome to everybody joining us today for the Pope's Apostolic Voyage to Thailand and Japan. The Holy Father completed his visit to Thailand just a few days ago and is currently in Japan. This morning we are broadcasting live the Holy Father's meeting with victims of the triple disaster of the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear disaster in 2012, which struck Japan in that year. My name is Christopher Wells. I'll be with you this morning, and I will be offering some English commentary and translations of the various speeches this morning. We're expecting to hear from a number of victims of that triple disaster, and then, of course, we'll hear an address by His Holiness Pope Francis. We have been told that the Holy Father is running a little bit late before his meeting here with the disaster victims. He is meeting with students from the Escolas Ocorrentes, the educational organization that he is a particular patron of. And that meeting has gone a little bit longer than expected. So we are a little bit behind schedule this morning, but the Holy Father has been kept on a pretty tight schedule throughout this trip, so we expect him to arrive shortly. As we go to air, I would like to greet all of those listening in around the world, however you are hearing this broadcast, whether by radio or television, through the internet, through other means of social communication. Greetings to one and all. I'd especially like to greet those listening in on our partner and collaborator stations, including Radio Luce, We Are One Body Radio, Catholic Faith Network, Shalom World TV, Salt and Light TV, EWTN TV, Catholic TV, and CBS News. And just a reminder for those of you watching on television, we are broadcasting over radio as well, so we are going to hear a few descriptions of things that you'll be seeing on the screen. It looks like the Holy Father is arriving even as we speak and is greeted with a musical welcome. Greets a number of survivors. Towards the end of the line, he makes the traditional Beretta switch, which he has taken the habit of not actually switching out his Beretta, but taking the gift of a Beretta, placing it on his head briefly, and then giving it back to those who present it. and he's speaking now with a couple of the survivors of the disaster. The Holy Father is accompanied by the Archbishop of Tokyo and by the Bishop of Sendai. Sendai was the diocese most directly affected by the disaster in 2011. Yesterday, and in fact the past 2 days, the Holy Father has especially been focused, especially yesterday, has been focused on the issue of nuclear weapons, having visited Nagasaki and Hiroshima yesterday, where he visited the memorial parks near the epicenters of the nuclear attacks that devastated those two cities at the end of World War II. And he made a strong call, echoing the voice of his predecessors, of course, that nuclear weapons should never be used, and in fact said that they should not even be possessed. Today we are hearing about the Great East Japan disaster, where a 9.0 or 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Japan, creating a huge tsunami, and also causing a nuclear accident at Fukushima nuclear plant, and the total of the people who were affected by that numbered in the hundreds of thousands, including people who were evacuated from their homes, but also perhaps 15 to 20,000 dead, several hundred still missing, and certainly an event that profoundly shook Japan. And now we're having greetings and the introduction. Our first voice is from Toshiko Keto, a survivor of the earthquake. And we'll be providing a translation of the text that we have had prepared ahead of time. My name is Toshiko Keto, and I am the head of a Catholic kindergarten in Miyako City, Iwate Prefecture. I was at work on the day of the tsunami. One girl who had returned home from the kindergarten died. From that day on, I have continued to think about the importance of teaching children the preciousness of life and how to protect their lives, as well as the heavy responsibility I have as a kindergarten director to make the best choices to protect their lives. Along with the rest of the town, my home was swept away by the tsunami. The seawall built around the city as a countermeasure against the tsunami broke. It had been so large that people came from abroad to see it. Things made by human wisdom and power were destroyed and washed away, but those made by nature did not break. I learned that human beings cannot fight nature, and that the wisdom to live with nature is necessary. That morning, I could not have known that the daily life I had known before I left the house would end, that in an instant many people would die. I was unthinkingly busy with what I had to do. I remember that when I stood in the rubble where my home had been, I was thankful for being given life, for being alive, and for just being able to appreciate it. Through this earthquake, I received much more than I lost. Many people from all over the world opened their hearts, and I was able to find hope from seeing people come together to help one another. After 8 years, I am finally thinking about connecting the before and after of that time, bit by bit. What is important and what must be protected. If you do nothing, the result will be zero. But if you take a step, you will move forward one step. I have realized the obvious fact that today is the continuation of yesterday, and they are connected with tomorrow. Life is the most important thing, and no good life is lost. While praying to know how the lives of the little people who suffer on the earth may be protected, I want to think about what I can do with the life I have been given and move ahead bit by bit.
命が一番大事で、なくしてよい命などないこと。今地球上で困難に陥っている小さな人たちの命がどうぞ守られますようにと祈りながら、生かされている自分に何ができるかを考え、一つ一つ積み重ねていきたいと思います。
That was Toshiko Keto, a survivor of the earthquake. And she's able to greet the Holy Father and receives a gift from him.
それでは田中様お願いいたします。
The second survivor is Tokun Tanaka, a Buddhist priest.
本日はこのような機会をいただきましてありがとうございます。
And once again, we're providing the testimony that is provided as a translation for us. Thank you for this opportunity. Dokaiji, where I lived, has been a central temple in the region for over 800 years. It is about 17 kilometers northwest of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station. It was a peaceful place, rich in nature, with thriving agriculture and fishing. Many people lived together for 3 or 4 generations and valued the history and culture passed on from their ancestors. In the town there was a Shinto ceremony, Soma no Maoi, that is said to have been passed on for 1,000 years. The evacuation order was lifted in 2016, and 35% of the people have returned. The members of the temple were scattered near and far in a very wide area. I often go to visit them. At first, we were at a loss in the face of this terrible reality. However, little by little, we are getting up and accepting the reality and starting to move forward. Besides the nuclear plant problem, how can we also respond to problems such as natural disasters, abnormal weather, environmental problems, wars, refugees, food, economic disparities, and other major issues? Honest and humble reflection, deep understanding, and decisions about what is to be done are necessary. The most important thing is to hear the voice of the earth. We are part of the earth, part of the environment. If we can understand this, it will be like a caterpillar changing into a butterfly, and the problem will be solved. Then there is preparation of mind, body, and lifestyle. Based on these, we should pray and act each day.
その果実から樹木への意識の目覚めが必要です。樹木こそが私たちの本性です。果実から樹木に意識が覚醒する。
Our way of life is being challenged. From growth to maturity, let us be part of the change. Let us take the right path without concern for profit or loss. It is time for the whole of humanity to evolve based on solidarity and harmony beyond self and society. Thank you very much for this opportunity
自
to
ら
meet
が
with you.
変化の一部になりましょう。ありがとうございました。
And that was a Buddhist monk, Tokun Tanaka, a Buddhist priest, excuse me. And he is able to exchange a few words with the Holy Father with the help of the translator. And also receives a gift from the Holy Father.
田中様、ありがとうございました。鴨下様、お願いします。
And finally, we hear from Matsuki Kamashita, a survivor of the nuclear disaster.
親愛なるパパ様、僕は福島県いわき市に生まれました。8歳だった時に原発事故が
I
起き
was
て、
born in Iwaki City in Fukushima Prefecture.
でも
When I was 8, the
父は
nuclear accident
母に
occurred,
僕らを託し
and
て
we were evacuated to
福島へ
Tokyo
戻り
to
ました。
escape radiation.
父は教師で、僕らの他にも守るべき生徒たちがいたからです。
But my father entrusted us to our mother and
僕と
returned
3歳
to
の弟を連れ
Fukushima.
て、慣れぬ地
He
を
was a
転々
teacher,
としながら
and
避
besides
難を
us,
続
there were
けました。
students to protect. My mother took me and my 3-year-old brother and continued to evacuate from place to place.
僕は
My brother would burrow into his futon and cry. I was bullied in the evacuation destination, and every day was so painful I wanted to die.
やがて父も
Eventually, my father got mentally and physically ill and stopped working. Even so, I still think we are fortunate because we were able to evacuate.
幸せなのだと思います。国は避難住
The
宅の
country has given up housing evacuees. I have been desperately staying away, but many people have been forced to return to the contaminated area. But radioactive materials that have fallen all over eastern Japan are still emitting radiation after 8 years. It will take many times longer than my lifetime to restore the contaminated lands and forests. So for us who live there, adults have a responsibility to explain, without concealing anything about radioactive contamination, exposure, and possible damage in the future. I don't want them to die before us, having lied or not admitting the truth.
嘘をついたまま、認めないまま、先に死なないでほしいのです。原発は国策です。そのため、それを維持したい政府の思惑に沿って、賠償額や
We cannot fully convey our suffering, so please pray with us, Holy Father, that we can appreciate each other's pain and love our neighbors. Pray that even in this cruel reality we will be given courage to not turn our eyes away. Pray that those who have power will find the courage to follow another path. Pray that we can all overcome this injury. And please pray with us that people from all over the world will work to eliminate the threat of radiation exposure from our future.
残酷な現実であっても、目を背けない勇気が与えられるように、力を持つ人たちに悔い改めの勇気が与えられるように、皆でこの被害を乗り越えていけるように、そして僕らの未来から被爆の脅威をなくすため、世界中の人が動き出せるように、どうか共に祈ってください。
And that was Matsuki Kamashita, a survivor of the nuclear disaster at Fukushima. And he embraces the Holy Father briefly, and they are able to say a few words. And now we expect to hear from our Holy Father, Pope Francis.
続きまして 教皇フランシスコよりメッセージをいただきます。
And here is our Holy Father, Pope Francis.
Queridos amigos, este encuentro con ustedes es un momento importante en mi visita a Japón. Les agradezco la bienvenida con música argentina.
Dear friends, this meeting with you today is an important part of my visit to Japan. I thank all of you for your welcome.
Quienes han compartido su historia con nosotros. Ellos y
In a
también
special way, I thank Toshiko, Tokun, and Matsuki, who shared their
a
stories
todos
with us.
de manera tan grande a causa del triple desastre: el terremoto, el tsunami y el accidente nuclear, que afectó no solo a las prefecturas.
They and all of you represent everyone who suffered so greatly as a result of the triple disaster: the earthquake, the tsunami, and the nuclear accident that affected not only the prefectures of Iwate, Miyagi, and Fukushima, but the whole of Japan and its inhabitants.
Y el dolor sufrido por tantas personas, pero también la esperanza abierta a un futuro mejor.
Thank you for expressing in your words and by your presence the sorrow and pain, but also the hope of a better future experienced by so many. At the end of his testimony, Matsuki invited me to join you in prayer. Let us spend a moment in silence so that our first word will be one of prayer for the more than 18,000 people who lost their lives, for their families, and for those who are still missing. May this prayer unite us and give us the courage to look forward with hope.
De mirar hacia adelante con esperanza. También
After a
agradezcamos el
brief
esfuerzo de
moment of
los
silence
gobiernos
and
locales,
silent prayer, the Holy Father continues.
y personas que trabajan en la reconstrucción de las áreas donde ocurrieron los
Let us
desastres.
also give thanks for the efforts of the local governments, organizations, and individuals working for the reconstruction of the areas where the disasters struck,
Sin poder regresar todavía a sus hogares.
and for the relief of the over 50,000 persons who have been evacuated and are living in temporary housing, still unable to return to their homes. I especially appreciate, as Toshiko pointed out, the speed with which many people, not only from Japan but from all over the world, mobilized immediately after the disasters to support the victims with an outpouring of prayers and material and financial aid. We should not let this action be lost with the passage of time or disappear after the initial shock. Rather, we should continue and sustain it. As Matsuki told us, some of those who lived in the affected areas now feel forgotten by others, and many must face ongoing problems, contaminated lands and forests, and the long-term effects of radiation.
A todas las personas de buena voluntad.
May this meeting help us to appeal together to all persons of goodwill, so that the victims of these tragedies will continue to receive much needed assistance.
Alimentos, ropa y refugio. No es posible llevar adelante una vida digna y tener lo mínimo.
Without basic resources such as food, clothing, and shelter, it is not possible to live a worthy life and have the bare minimum needed to succeed in rebuilding. This, in turn, calls for experiencing the solidarity and support of a community. No one rebuilds by himself or herself. Nobody can start over alone. We have to find a friendly and fraternal hand, capable of helping to raise not just the city, but also our horizon and our hope.
Que aunque ella perdió su hogar en el tsunami, está agradecida por poder apreciar el regalo de la vida.
Toshiko told us that although she lost her home in the tsunami, she is still thankful for being able to appreciate the gift of life and for the experience of hope that came from seeing people come together to help one another.
Japón ha demostrado cómo un pueblo puede unirse en solidaridad.
After 8 years after the triple disaster, Japan has shown how a people can unite in solidarity, patience, perseverance, and resilience. The path to a full recovery may still be long, but it can always be undertaken if it counts on the spirit of people capable of mobilizing in order to help one another. As Toshiko said, if we do nothing, the result will be zero. But whenever you take one step, you move one step forward. I invite you then to move forward each day, little by little, to build a future based on solidarity and commitment to one another, for yourselves, your children and grandchildren, and for the generations to come.
Tukun preguntó cómo podemos responder a otros problemas importantes que nos afectan y que, como ustedes bien saben, no pueden entenderse o tratarse separadamente.
Tukun asked how we can respond to other major issues we face: wars, refugees, food, economic disparities, and environmental challenges.
Que hoy en día se pueden abordar aisladamente los temas sin asumirlos como parte de una red más grande.
These, as you well know, cannot be understood or treated separately. It is a serious mistake to think that nowadays these issues can be dealt with in isolation without viewing them as part of a much larger network. He rightly pointed out that we are part of this earth, part of the environment, inasmuch as everything is, in the end, interconnected. Important decisions will have to be made about the use of natural resources, and future energy sources in particular. But the most important thing, I believe, is to progress in building a culture capable of combating indifference. One of our greatest ills has to do with a culture of indifference. We need to work together to foster awareness that if one member of our family suffers, we all suffer. Real interconnectedness will not come about unless we cultivate the wisdom of togetherness, the only wisdom capable of facing problems and solutions in a global way. We are part of one another.
Quisiera recordar de manera particular el accidente nuclear de Daiichi en Fukushima y sus secuelas.
Here I would like to mention in a particular way the accident at the Daiichi nuclear power station in Fukushima and its aftermath. In addition to scientific or medical concerns, there's also the immense challenge of restoring the fabric of society. Until social bonds in local communities are reestablished, and people can once more enjoy safe and stable lives, the Fukushima accident will not be fully resolved.
Como bien lo señalaron mis hermanos obispos en Japón, la preocupación por el uso continuo.
In turn, this involves, as my brother bishops in Japan have emphasized, concern about the continuing use of nuclear power. For this reason, they have called for the abolition of nuclear power plants.
La tentación de hacer del progreso tecnológico la medida del progreso humano. Este paradigma tecnocrático de progreso.
Our age is tempted to make technological progress the measure of human progress. This technocratic paradigm of progress and development shapes the lives of individuals and the workings of society, and often leads to a reductionism that affects every aspect of human and social life. That thought comes from Laudato Si. So the Pope continues, So it is important at times like this to pause and reflect upon who we are, and perhaps more critically, who we want to be. What kind of world, what kind of legacy will we leave to those who will come after us? The wisdom and experience of elders, united to the zeal and enthusiasm of young people, can help us to forge a different vision, one that fosters reverence for the gift of life and solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the one multi-ethnic and multicultural human family.
Debemos darnos cuenta de que no podemos tomar decisiones puramente egoístas y que tenemos una gran responsabilidad con las generaciones futuras.
As we think about the future of our common home, we need to realize that we cannot make purely selfish decisions, and that we have a great responsibility to future generations. Consequently, we must choose a humble and sober way of life that recognizes the urgent realities we are called to face. Toshiko, Tokun, and Matsuki have each reminded us of the need to find a new path for the future, a path rooted in respect for each person and for the natural world. Along this path, all of us can cooperate as instruments of God for the care of creation, each according to his own culture, experience, involvements, and talents. That's also from Laudato Si. Dear friends, in the ongoing work of recovery and rebuilding after the triple disaster, many hands must join together and many hearts unite as one. In this way, those who are suffering will be supported and know that they have not been forgotten. They will realize that many people actively and effectively share their sorrow and continue to extend a fraternal helping hand. Once again, I thank all those who, in ways large and small, have tried to ease the burdens of the victims. May that compassion be the path that enables all to find hope, stability, and security for the future.
Gracias de nuevo por estar aquí. Por favor, recen por mí. Y que Dios les conceda a todos.
Thank you again for being here. Please pray for me, and may God grant to all of you and to your loved ones his blessings of wisdom, strength, and peace. Thank you very much. The words of our Holy Father, Pope Francis, to victims of the triple disaster that struck Japan in 2011. And now the Holy Father is going to have the opportunity once again to speak with some of those representatives of the many people who are still affected by that disaster. I think that was one of the most important parts of the Holy Father's address, remembering that many people who have been struck by disasters, after the wave of support that they receive in the initial days and weeks after the events, many times feel left behind when the work of recovery and rebuilding takes a little bit, it takes some time, and the news cycle moves on and another disaster occurs, or there are other important events that happen in the world. And the Holy Father reminded us of the necessity to continue to support, not only with our prayers, but also materially and financially, those people who still suffer the effects of various disasters. And the Holy Father once more goes to address the speakers who shared parts of their story with us today. And for those listening in on radio, behind the Holy Father, there is
それではここで教皇フランシスコがご退場
a
されます。
banner for
皆様ご起
the
立いただき、歌でお見送りください。
work of Caritas Japan. Caritas is one of the principal charitable organizations within the church. And Caritas at the local level has been responsible in large part for carrying out and coordinating the Catholic Church's response to the needs of survivors of the disasters. As the Holy Father said, this is one of the most important parts of his visit, and delivering an important message today. Our Holy Father does have a busy day today. This is his first public event. He's already had the opportunity to meet privately with about 20 young people who are taking part in the Escolas Ocorrentes program. Again, that's one of the educational programs that our Holy Father is very deeply invested in and has supported very strongly throughout the years. At this event, the Holy Father had the opportunity to meet and speak with victims of and survivors of the triple disaster, the earthquake, the subsequent tsunami, and the nuclear power plant disaster that struck Japan in 2011. And the Holy Father, after spending some time with the people here, and fortunately, as we said at the beginning of the event, he was running just a little bit late on his way to this meeting, but they caught up with that, and he was just about 5 minutes late, and they've made up all that time. And now he has the time and the opportunity to speak with some of the people who are here. And that's one of the times when we see our Holy Father at his very best, is when he does have the opportunity to speak individually with people, especially those who are suffering in any way. From here, the Holy Father is traveling to the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, just a short ways away, where he will have a meeting with the Emperor of Japan. Emperor Naruhito ascended to the throne just this past year in 2019, following the abdication of his father, Emperor Akihito. And at the Imperial Palace, he will have a private meeting with the Emperor. Later in the day, he will travel to the Cathedral of the of the Immaculate Blessed Virgin Mary. And there he will have the opportunity to meet with young people at the Cathedral of St. Mary's before lunch at the Papal Nunciature. And then in the afternoon, the main event will be the Holy Mass celebrated at the Tokyo Dome. Before meeting later in the day with the Prime Minister and with civil authorities. So a very full day this morning. I will be with you for the meeting with young people in about half an hour. Until then, thank you all for joining us once again. Thank you to those listening in on Radio Luce, We Are One Body Radio, EWTN TV, Catholic Faith Network, Shalom World TV, Sultan Light TV, Catholic TV, and CBS News. Praise be Jesus Christ. Laudetur Jesus Christus.